And welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our brand new stamp set, So Happy. It's coordinating dies and coordinating coloring stencils. This set is so cute and adorable, and I especially love how you can add the smiley faces to everything. And then we're also going to be taking a look at our candy hearts stencils. This is a 5-step stencil that creates the cutest candy hearts background that you are just going to love. It has these adorable little words you can layer over top, or you can do them without the words too, just to create a cool heart background. It's so much fun to create with. So let's go ahead and start creating with it first. These stencils have little numbers in the upper right-hand corner that help you know how to start. And so here is number 1, and we're going to layer that onto a piece of white cardstock, and we're going to ink this up with some bubblegum ink. And it's so much fun to create with these hearts. You could make them all in one color, but mixing and matching the colors so that it really looks like conversation hearts, I think, is so cute. And so we are going to ink over this whole stencil here until we filled in all of our hearts. Then we can peel up the stencil, my favorite part of stenciling, and get to see our fun reveal. And now we're going to take stencil number 2, and you'll see that there are etch guidelines on the stencil so that you can easily line them up. So you're going to line up the etch guidelines with the hearts that you've already stenciled, and then you can just press down and secure that in place. And then we're going to ink these ones up with some celery stick ink. Then we can lift up the stencil and go on to stencil number 3. And again, we're going to take those etch guidelines, we're going to line them up with all of those hearts that we've already stenciled, and then we can hold that in place, and we're going to ink these up with some lemonade ink. Now we're going to lift up this stencil, and I wanted to show you that you could stop right here. You would have these 3 multicolored hearts all scattered around, and it looks super, super cute. Then you could add the words or the background. And I wanted to show you what it looks like when you add just the background and you skip the words. And Shari did that on her card. So let's take a look at what she did. So she added color to the 3 hearts like we just did. Then she put the background piece on, filled in the background, and you could stop right here. Isn't that so pretty? Or you can decide to add on the cute conversation heart words. So I like that there's lots of different options depending on how you want to use this stencil. So now we're going to go back to our inking here, and we're going to add those cute little words on. And so we're going to layer those onto there, and I think these are just adorable. And we're going to be inking those up with some grape soda ink. You could also do lobster or a guava, and it would all look amazing. The other thing you could do would be to use a smaller bender brush and match the colors to the heart so that it was more of a tone on tone look. And then we're going to do our big reveal, and isn't that just adorable? Again, super cute right here, but we're going to fill in the background too, which is what I think is so fun and special about this cool stencil, is that you can add the background as well and really customize it to the look you want for your card. So we're going to line this up with those hearts, and then we're going to go ahead and fill in the background with some merman ink. And this is going to be a really nice contrast to those pinks, greens, and yellows that we did earlier. And then once we have this whole area filled in, we can peel up our stencil, and look at that. Isn't that so pretty? Oh, I think it turned out so, so cute. And since we have this really, really fun background, it's definitely time to make a card with it. So we're going to be taking out our postage rectangle stackables here, and we're going to be die cutting the largest one here from some white cardstock. And then we're going to be trimming down our piece to fit inside of those stitch lines. So we're just going to use our ruler here to measure just inside those stitch lines so that we can trim down our piece to be that size. And so that's going to look really great in our card to have the cute little frame of the postage stamp all of the way around this really adorable background. And so we're going to add some tape runner to the back of our stencil piece and then layer that into our postage frame. And so now I think it just looks adorable. Oh my goodness. So we're going to make kind of a simple card because we really want this cool stencil background to be the star of the show. So we're going to use some of our Candy Hearts dies here. We're going to die cut that from lilac and sticky note cardstock. And these are really cute. They're little dies that have these little conversation heart phrases, kind of like the stencil. So it's really fun that we have both of them. We're going to add some tape runner to the back of this die cut heart and layer that in there. And then we're also going to use some liquid glue to just drop in the little centers of the O's there. And by layering the yellow cardstock in the back, we have this fun contrast onto the heart, and it's going to look really, really cute on this background. So we're going to add some tape runner onto that and then just layer that kind of over the edge of that postage frame. And then we can add some foam squares to the back of this whole panel, and then we can layer that on to a card base, and that way we're going to have this postage edge, and then that lilac cardstock that's going to match the heart is going to go all of the way around. Isn't that so pretty? I just love that. And then the last thing we need is another sentiment. So we're going to take out the Critter Conversation Hearts. It has the best sentiments in it. There's a Happy Valentine's Day. There's also Happy Galentine's Day, which I think would be really cute on this card too. And we're going to be stamping this onto some lilac cardstock as well. And we're going to be doing some white heat embossing. So we're going to stamp this in some clear embossing ink. And this is a nice sticky ink. And then we're going to sprinkle on some white heat embossing powder. And we can tap off any of the excess and then heat it up with the heat tool until we have a nice bright white shiny sentiment. Then we can just trim around the sentiment with our paper trimmer and then just use some scissors to just trim off the end so that it just has a nice little rectangle around it. And then we're going to add some tape runner to it and then layer that onto the card. And then any of the extra that's going to be sticking out on the edge there, we can just trim that with our scissors. And then the last thing that we need to do is create a card base. So we're going to create a card base that's 5.5 by 4.25, and we're going to layer this whole panel on top. And it's so fun to stencil such a pretty background and make it be the star of the show on a card. I love that you could really customize the colors of this too, and the stencil is just so much fun to play with. And the card that Shari makes in just a little bit with it is so beautiful. Now that we've taken a look at the Candy Heart stencil, we're going to take a look at the Soy Happy stamp set, which is this adorable little mini set that of course has a soy sauce bottle. It also has some cute little sushi there. And then it has a little tiny heart that's just perfect. And then we have some little smiley faces that you can add on to the images or not, depending on the look that you're going for your card. And then we also have these little rosy cheeks that you can stamp around the little smiley faces. These little mini phrases are so fun. We have I heart you so much and we go together. And then of course we also have a larger phrase too that says you make me so happy. Now it's time to add some color to these images, and I'm going to be using my Copic markers here, but you could use colored pencils or watercolor or coloring stencils too, and I'm going to show you the coloring stencils in just a little bit. I'm adding that traditional red top to my soy sauce and then using some nice dark browns for the soy sauce there, and I'm going to keep it lighter kind of towards the center. And then we're going to add some cute little color to the kind of label part. I'm going to use some yellow here, but this would be fun to do all sorts of different pops of color. And then here for the fish on top, I'm going to be using some YR markers, just some light oranges, and just kind of mixing and matching my colors here. It's fun to use something like Google Images and just look up different colors so that you can match the real thing, right? Which is so cool. And then for the rice below, I'm just using different shades of warm gray and little dots to make it kind of have the texture of rice. Now here are those coloring stencils. This is a set of 3 and it's the same size as the stamp set, which makes it really easy to store with it. And with the coloring stencils, all you need to do is just line them up with your stamped image and then brush on some ink. There's etch guidelines that make it really, really easy to line up with what you've stamped. And you'll see here that we're going to fill in the soy sauce area of the bottom here, and now we're going to fill in the top. And it's so easy to line these up, and they're just so much fun to add color to your stamps. You can add a little bit of more ink towards one edge and keep it lighter towards the other to get a fun gradient look. And you can see I'm using the same colors that I used with my markers, but I'm using them now with my inks and these little brushes. And look how beautiful that looks. Isn't that gorgeous? You could die cut this and it would be perfect for putting on a card. And speaking of dies, here are the coordinating dies for this set. All you need to do is line them up with your stamped images, hold it in place with some low tack tape, run it through the die cut machine, and you'll have perfectly cut out images every time. And I just love that tiny little heart. And then here are the images from the set, and I love how you can kind of layer them together to create cute little cards with them. They're just adorable. And then of course, one of my favorite things about any food themed stamp set is to add smiley faces onto it. My son Miles always says it needs a smiley face, so we're going to add that. There's 2 different styles, so we're going to add one style to the soy sauce and then the other style of smiley face onto the sushi. And isn't that so cute? Oh my gosh, they're so fun. And I wanted to add these onto a card, and this was an idea by Rebecca. I just loved it. She's using our doily hearts die, and we're going to die cut that from some green cardstock here. And it's going to kind of make it look like a doily or maybe a placemat or something. I just feel like it kind of feels like a plate, which is super cute. Now this is our All the Speech Bubble stamp set, which is a classic stamp set because it has all the speech bubbles and all these different sizes that match the mini phrases that we add into our stamp sets. And so we're going to stamp the I heart you so much into the speech bubble, add a little bit of red onto that little heart there, and then some light blue on the inside of the speech bubble just to help it pop. And then we can die cut it with the coordinating die, and then it's going to be ready to add onto our card. For the sentiment, we're going to use some fancy folded banners. These are so cute, and you'll see the die creates these cool little score lines that we're going to fold in just a second, but we're going to stamp on it first. It's easier to stamp before we fold it all. And so I'm going to take my block here, and I'm going to take my stamp and just curve it to match the curve of this banner, and then just press it down onto the block. And then we can ink it up with some black licorice ink and then stamp it right into the center of the banner. Then those little score lines we saw earlier, we're going to be folding along those. So we're going to fold back along the closest score line to the center and then forward on the outer score line. And we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So back into the center score line, and then we're going to fold towards us on the other score line. And that's going to give us this really pretty fancy banner look. I really like the three-dimensional feel of it. Now we need a background for all of these cute images. So we're going to take some spiffy speckles paper here in that really pretty pink color, and we're going to take this outline heart stencil and we're going to ink this up with some plastic flamingo ink over top here. And I really like this stencil because it does look so pretty on pattern paper as well. I just think it's such a cool look. So we're going to ink over this whole stencil here, and then we can go ahead and peel up our stencil and have this big reveal. And I love the pattern paper behind it. I just think it looks gorgeous. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to be trimming it down to be a square. We're going to create a 4¼ inch square card because that's going to frame our little doily here really nicely. And so we're going to start layering everything onto the card, making our adorable little meal here. So I'm going to add my little plate here into the center of the card. And then this is going to be a nice, cute, and simple card. And so we're going to add a little bit of pop onto all of these characters just to give it a special feel. And so first we've added some foam tape behind our banner here, and this is going to kind of become a little bit of our ground for our characters and also of course the sentiment for the card too. And then we can add some foam squares to the back of all of these other pieces. And then we can remove the liner paper and start to layer these together. And when you layer the two little guys just kind of like leaned in towards each other a little bit, I just think it looks really, really cute. And then of course we've got our fun little speech bubble and that tiny little heart too. And then all we need is a card base. It's going to be a 4¼ inch square card base. I love that this still is going to fit into a standard size card with standard postage, but it's going to be a fun square shape. And so then we can just add some tape runner onto this and then layer our whole panel over top. And now this card is all done. It's super cute and simple and just absolutely adorable that would make anybody smile. And next up, Shari is going to blow you away with her super, super cute card. Oh, here you can see I made another one. They were so quick and easy to make. I had to make two. All right, Shari, take it away. We can't wait to see this card.
So on my card today, I'm starting out with my background using the new Candy Hearts stencils. There are 5 stencils in this pack, and I'm using speckled eggshell cardstock as my base to ink blend on. This is going to give me a beautiful soft look. Now I've layered the 5th stencil and the 1st stencil together to just see where all the hearts are so I can line it up. I want it a little closer to the bottom. And I'm starting with stencil number 1. Each one has a number etched in the top right corner. Here are the colors I'm using for my hearts today. So Peachy Keen, Fresh Lavender, and Merman. And I'm starting out with the Peachy Keen for this stencil number 1, the first layer of hearts. And I am going to go in with a very light hand to do a very light layer of this ink because I want a very light pastel-y look to my background today. Then I can remove the stencil and I will move on to stencil number 2. Now this has etching lines so you can line up the stencil with the hearts that you've already inked. And I will just use my grip mat to hold that in place. For stencil number 2, I am going to use the Merman ink. Again, going all over with a light hand to fill in all of those hearts for this second stencil. Then I can peel this away and move on to stencil number 3, which will be my third and final color for these candy hearts. Again, I'm using the etching lines on this to line it up with the hearts that I have already inked. And these will be inked in Fresh Lavender ink. I am going to go back with the stencil that puts the words on the hearts using the same colors for a second layer. So before I do that, I'm actually going to move on to stencil number 5 and do my background next. So I am skimping stencil number 4, I'll come back. Before my background, I'm using peach fuzz ink and again, being very light-handed, and this just fills in between the hearts, but leaves a little halo around them of the cardstock color. So when I pull this away, you're going to see that beautiful background, and now all those hearts really stand out. Now I'm going back to stencil number 4 and lining it up with the text on each of these. And I'm going back in with the same colors I used for the heart itself and just adding a second layer of ink with a small blending brush that matches the color of the heart that is behind it. So I have fresh lavender on the purple hearts. I will do the merman ink on those teal hearts. And again, the peachy keen ink on the pink hearts. And these are going to give me a really nice tone on tone with the text. So I want this background to be very soft because I'm going to be putting some images over it. And that is why I decided to do the tone on tone look with these stencils. Now, before I'm done with this background, I'm actually going to go back to stencil number 5 and line it back up and use it as a mask. I think that this is a really fun way to use these stencils for more than just inking. So this is going to mask off all of the candy hearts and only have openings where the background is and allow me to add some splatter to just the background, which I think is a really fun look. It makes it look like you have some metallic foiled paper behind all these hearts, but really you've just done some inking magic. So once I have my splatters kind of looking the way I want, I'll peel this away and you'll see that those splatters are only in that background color. And I will set this aside to dry. Now for my images, I colored 3 of the little critter conversation hearts, but I did not color their hearts. I want their hearts to match the inked hearts in the background, so I am going to use the coloring stencils to color in each of those hearts. So I've got my little mole, I have my bear, and I have my fox. And I'm going to start with my little mole and line the coloring stencil up just to use the heart part of this coloring stencil and ink his heart using that Peachy Keen ink. This is a really great way to have the colors match exactly, and it's much easier than trying to match your markers sometimes. So we have our Peachy Keen heart with the mole. Then I'm going to grab the stencil that lines up with the bear and my fresh lavender ink and ink blend the heart that the bear is holding. And then finally, I have the little heart that the fox is holding in the merman ink. So I love that I can use these stencils to make them match my background perfectly. So I will use the coordinating dies to line them up, hold them in place with a little bit of low tack tape, and cut them out. Now that my background is dry, I can trim this out with the largest of the outside in stitch rectangles, and this will give me a little border around my background on my card. And I also grabbed one of the new postage rectangle stackables and cut it out of vellum. And this is going to give me a little frame for my critters to sit on and kind of soften up the background just a bit more where my images are. I wanted to stick with those soft colors, so I decided to use some kraft cardstock to cover my card base. This will be what peeks out around the edges of my stenciled background. So I can just add my background to my card base as well. But then before I add my vellum, I want to actually lay out all my pieces on the vellum first so I know where to put my adhesive. And before I put my critters on there, I need to add some little sentiments to their cute little hearts. Now to do that, I actually used a darker shade of ink for each one. So for the mole, I'm using guava. For the heart on the bear, I'm using grape jelly. I could have probably used sugar plum and gotten it a little bit darker. And then for the fox, I am going to use peacock. I like this tone on tone for their little hearts. It matches the background. Now for the sentiment, I'm using some spiffier speckles paper because I thought that this dark pink really went well with the colors of the card, but also was dark enough to really stand out. And I also like those fun foil specks. So I cut this out with the Stitch Sentiment banner, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says Happy Heart Day, and this is from the Critter Conversation Hearts stamp set. So I'm just lining this up, butting each of these rectangular base stamps against each other. I will pick it up with a block. And then I will just stamp this on that sentiment banner with some black ink, and now we have that bold sentiment to line up below our images. So I have my piece of vellum cut with the postage rectangle stackable. I'm lining it up on my mat with the grid, and I'm just going ahead and adhering down my images with some foam tape. So I have my sentiment banner here, making sure that's nice and straight. Then I will add each of my little critters using some foam squares as well. And I started with the one in the center so I know it's nice and centered, and then I'm working my way out to the ones on the left and the right. And I'm adding all of these to the vellum first so that I know where to put my adhesive, because we would see the adhesive through the vellum. So you can see I'm just putting my liquid glue behind my images right on those foam squares basically, and then I can just pop this onto my background. And now all that adhesive is hidden behind my stamped and die cut images. So I pulled out the little hearts from the Hearts and Stars skinny tag and used that same pink cardstock from the Spiffier Speckles Petite paper pack to cut out my little hearts to sprinkle around my card. And that way they match my sentiment banner perfectly with that perfect pink color. And I'm just deciding where I want one more down here at the bottom to just make it nice and even. So I'm going to add this one at the bottom. And I thought that was all my embellishment, so I went ahead and added some glitter just to the tops of the hearts that the critters are holding. But then I decided I wanted something a little bit more, so I pulled out the two little paper clips that have the hearts, and I'm going to cut these from rose gold metallic cardstock, which I think fits the colors on this card perfectly. And I love that you can just tuck these little paper clips kind of anywhere. So I'm adding them to the top of my little vellum postage rectangle, and I just think they're the perfect little added embellishment. So here is my finished card with that beautiful soft tone-on-tone candy heart stencil background and the cute little Critter Conversation Hearts critters.
I love this card so much, Shari, and I love how cute those critters are with the Conversation Hearts background. It's just adorable. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And this platform pop-up card by Grace is just so cute. I love how she layered the Soy Happy stamp set all over it and how she's got the fun words in the background. I mean, the whole thing is adorable. And wait till you see when you turn it around to the back. Isn't that so cute? She had to add 2 more little sushi on there, and it's just so sweet and fun. Next up, we have a gorgeous gift box by Mindy. I love how she added the fun candy heart stencil into the gift box. I think it feels so special, and this would be awesome filled with cute little chocolates or candy hearts. This card here is so much fun by Elise. I love how she used our gradient pattern paper to die cut that cool checkered hearts background from. It's just adorable. And then this card by Maureen is so fun, and I love her girl power theme and all of the fun colors that she used. I love those red and white stripes that Elena used on the card, and she shows how this cute little mini set is cute with or without the smiley faces. And this card here by Audrey is so fun. I absolutely love the stencil background and the fun collage feel. And then this cute little card by Lynette is just adorable, and I love how she used that lacy heart stackable. It's a perfect match to the Soy Happy stamp set. And then the candy hearts are a perfect background for these adorable little tags by Mindy. I love them so much, and the background is so cool. This card by Megan is just adorable, and I love how she added our new washi tape at the bottom. It's so fun, and it really looks like the sushi is talking to the soy sauce. This Candy Hearts background by Tammy is just adorable, and those Critter Conversation hearts are a perfect match to this stencil. This card by Yanea is so fun. I love how she lightly stenciled in the background and added these fun collage layers and the washi tape too. And then this card by Letitia is so cute, and I love how she added the heart to the soy sauce bottle. That is such a good idea, and I can't wait to try it. So we can't wait to see all of your Soy Happy cards in your cool candy heart stencil background, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!